Good afternoon. Welcome back to post-lunch session of Startup Connect, organized by APEC News Network and presented by Dell Technologies and Microsoft. The aim of this conference has been to get the best of the minds from the startup ecosystem to discuss and deliberate upon various aspects on how the startups are realigning themselves in the new world order when it comes to upgradation of digital infrastructure. Because building a resilient IT infrastructure is no more a luxury, it's a necessity, it's a need of the hour. In the inaugural, we had the presence of Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary DST Government of India, who gave a perspective on how DST is actually helping startups and incubators to grow, to scale up. And he also talked about his vision about the startup community moving forward in future. And then we had a session on tech startups, and they also talked about how it is important for them to also adopt to new technologies to upgrade their infrastructure and everything. And we also had a presentation by Microsoft, and also thinking positive and well-being presentation by an expert. And now we have come to a very important session of this event. This session is on health tech startups, how healthcare IT infrastructure has become more significant than ever for health tech startups transforming healthcare landscape. And for that, we have leaders from healthcare startup ecosystem and also from industry. Let me introduce to all of you. Uh, we have with us Mr. Sugumar Umapati, Enterprise Architect and Chief Technology Officer, Dell Technologies. We welcome Sugumar. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Robin.
We're joined by Mr. Vaibhav Tiwari, co-founder and COO, Portia Medical. Thank you so much, Mr. Deepak, for joining us today.
Yeah, this is called Portia Medical, Porte, Portia.
Portia Medical, yes. We have with us Mr. Deepak Sharma, Chief Executive Officer, MedLearn.
Hi, thank you for having me.
We have with us Shayat Raha, founder and CEO, My Healthcare. Thank you so much, Mr. Raha, for joining us.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
We're also joined by Nidhi Jain, founder and CEO, Care Expert Technologies Private Limited. Thank you so much for joining us, Nidhi.
Pleasure to be here.
Let me also welcome Nikhil Kekare, Head of Digital Strategy, Medical Bazaar. We welcome Nikhil. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, everyone.
And we're also joined by Mr. Rahul Chatterjee, Chief Growth Officer, IKEO TechSoft Private Limited.
Thanks, Shobik. Great to meet you all.
Thank you so much. So let me first go to Sugumar. Sugumar, my question to you will be that how relevant and important it is for IT infrastructure for the healthcare startups, especially in the new world order. Your take on that?
Yeah. So thanks, Shavik. So today, if you look at, I hope I'm audible. So today, if you look at the situation we are in, right? So with COVID and pandemic around, technology is definitely one of the fundamental areas where all of us are investing in, right? So it is specifically useful for ensuring that you reach more and more clients and customers, and technology definitely plays a very key role in that aspect. So healthcare startups, if you look at IT infrastructure is the backbone, and many a times the IT infrastructure makes a huge difference between winning and losing for a particular startup, right? The availability of a technology for them to be able to do certain things in a much faster or a much more efficient way can mean their survivability as well, right? So what I believe is from a technology and an IT, there is definitely a very key aspect for any startup to look at. And with technologies and with connectivity today, we are getting data at a much faster pace than we have got in the past, right? So be it health data, be it your sensor data, it is really huge and humanly impossible to be able to make sense out of it. So technologies like AI, for example, allows you to make more insights out of that data and make sense out of it and provide outcomes to the businesses as well as from a patient or a healthcare user perspective. So I believe technology is certainly the differentiator the most important differentiator, apart from, of course, their IP, which definitely is something which is unique from their perspective. Technology could be the supporting factor for ensuring that their IP is reached to more and more citizens and patients, and also ensure that they increase their business outcomes out of that.
Right, right. I'll come back to you, Subhamar. Let's have a perspective from Vaibhav Tiwari. Mr. Vaibhav, my question to you will be that if we say that need of the hour is building resilient IT infrastructure for health tech startups, how do you see it?
So what I will do, probably I'll give a quick background about what we do, so it probably puts the whole thing in the right context. So Portia is India's largest home healthcare services company. So what we do, basically, all the patients who require any of the medical support, healthcare support, either post-discharge for chronic disease, for primary care, for elder care, whatever support do they require at home, which can be provided, is what we are managing in the comfort of their homes. And of course, services range from setting up an ICU at home, and I just wanted to bring the medical technology also into it. So basically, setting up the full ICU at home to basically getting a clinician or doctor visit them and treat them as per the protocol agreed upon with the treating doctor, and fairly spread out across the country. So what happens in a home healthcare scenario like ourselves is that both our clinicians, who are our employees, as well as the patient, both are not with us. So if you see in a hospital scenario and a lot of other industries, either a customer or employee or both will be with you. In our case, our employees will go from their homes to the patient homes, support them, and of course, either stay there or go back, and of course, patient stays at their homes. So for us to have the right technology, and that's how technology is a very, very significant, critical backbone for us, because we have to connect to patients, we have to connect to the clinician, we have to make sure that all the services which I'm offering today, we are able to manage remotely, report remotely, and do all the added things on that in a remote manner, actually. So that's what is something which is very, very critical for us. So for example, all our visits to the patients, which clinicians go for, are all assigned on an app. Similarly, for patient also, all of their data, all of their case files, everything is available for them from an online perspective. That's why having very, very robust technology systems, infrastructure becomes very, very critical. Second thing, to your point of resilience, I think what we are seeing from pandemic perspective. So if you see whether COVID wave 1 or wave 2, the number of cases, people who are looking for home care or looking for support from us, it could be home care, it could be teleconsultation, it could be blood test, could be anything. But the fact is, the volumes during a wave 2, our daily volumes, request volumes went up by 4 times. Wave 1 also, we did close to 1 million teleconsults for the patients across the country. So when you have demand spurts like that, you have to make sure the kind of infrastructure, the way you're set up and the way you're managing it is resilient, and of course is scalable, basically on a press of a button. So those are things which are very, very important, and we are seeing the benefits of that during the COVID times. And if you see whether people working from home or we supporting patients, our clinicians, everybody, the ups and downs of the demand have basically proven to be very, very significant in last 2 years. And we believe that these kind of things may continue. So that's why having a very, very strong technology infrastructure becomes very critical for us.
Right, right. I'll come back to you, Vaibhav. Let's have a perspective from Mr. Deepak Sharma. Your take on that, building resilient IT infrastructure.
Okay, so you want me to answer the same question? Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, let me take it from my side, my perspective. So and I think it's good to also to give a quick introduction. MedLearn is on a mission to really change healthcare at the core, and we believe the best way to do this, the only way to make a significant difference, as long as healthcare is delivered by humans, is to make sure that the knowledge, the skills, and the training is up to date. Now, part of it is basic quality compliance that you need to have to be able to even operate, right? Then there's other levels of risks that a healthcare organization has unique risks to, in the sense that you have reputational risks, you have regulatory risks, etc. And these days, because COVID is accelerated, there is significant other risk because something is overcrowded, something is being used for things that are not designed to, right? So a lot of that's added layers of risk on healthcare. Hopefully, some of it subsides, but I think healthcare will continue to remain a place where because in the end, you're touching human lives. The ability to deliver great quality care, a great patient experience at an affordable cost, it's going to it's going to be all the more important that the people who are delivering that level of care, they are reasonably up to date, and well managed. And somebody pointed out there are big trends converging, right? So there is data coming in from health records, there's data coming in from imaging systems, there's data which is being processed. A lot of that is also going to change the way the entire, I mean, not talking the next 1 year, but we've seen with COVID that the space at which medical knowledge can actually keep up was a lot faster than what we expected pre-COVID, development of vaccines, development of care treatments, etc. So over the course of the next few years, I think the healthcare knowledge as it is used to, treat care, it'll only accelerate. So somebody who's passed out of nursing school or medical school a few years back, right, will have more to learn. Otherwise, their impact on what they can do, and potentially it's a risk, right? Because treatments change, this equipment change. So to deliver all of that knowledge to thousands of hospitals, right? So our goal is to get to thousands. We're already in a couple of hundred hospitals. We have 30,000 healthcare workers training on our system on mobile, anywhere, anytime, virtual classroom. We have everything being delivered. So we are the backbone which is going to deliver this knowledge into the hospitals by maybe in the next 5 years into millions of healthcare workers, right? And for that, the only possible way is to drive this through the cloud, through a resilient system where all, because this training data is not just knowledge, it is also the performance data, it is their HR data. So a lot of that's already automatically factored in. We've been on the cloud from day one, right? And that's the only possible operating model. As the complexity grows, the knowledge grows. We deliver knowledge and training to people inside hospitals, in colleges, to employees of home healthcare startup like Portia and other organizations. So the need to be everywhere means that we need to be on the cloud, we need to be on mobile, and we need to make sure the data that we are using is reasonably, well, completely solidly secure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. For this data security part, I'll come to Sugumar in a while, because I think he can share some insights on that. I'll come to Sugumar, but very important point raised by Deepak Sharma. Shahid Turha, your thoughts on that?
So I think it's very interesting, Souvik, that we are having this discussion, because pre-COVID, digital technology in healthcare was like a nirvana topic. A lot of people talked about it. Nothing was really hitting on the ground. I think that's really the fact that all of this has changed in the last 1 year is a very good feeling. I think resilient technology as an overall piece is going to be the foundation for any business, not just healthcare, any business. How you optimize and how you use technology to try and make businesses more scalable and more effective, I think that is really going to be the focus for startups such as ourselves. So we are a healthcare ecosystem where we work with hospitals, we work with patients. And I think the advantage that we have seen during the last, I would say 14 to 16 months is this huge leapfrog jump in adoption of technology, whether it is the hospitals, whether it is the doctors, whether it is the patients. I think that has been a huge change, and a large driver of that is the technology pieces running at the back. So whether it was telemedicine, and earlier, if you looked at it, telemedicine was seen as basically a consult with a doctor. I think in the last 1 year, telemedicine has proven to be anything but that. It's gone to home patient monitoring. We've had a very large patient base which were being monitored through what was called the home isolation program. So you had a centralized command center monitoring up to 500 patients at home who were connected to devices, clinical devices, right? And then the use of AI today has now taken one step further, where a lot of these organizations, and I mean, it's maybe a little too early for startups, but I think we are already starting to have that discussion of beginning to create what is called sort of a data lake, where all the healthcare data starts coming in, because the big value proposition for patients and for clinicians going forward is going to be the centralized repository, I think like Vaibhav referred to, or what we call the patient longitudinal history. I think that's going to be very, very important, because today the entire healthcare delivery process is fractured. There is no two ways about it. And a large contributor to that is because there are different pieces of technology, nothing in the same sort of plate, which actually stitches it all together. And I think for us, organizations such as ourselves, which are working towards bringing all of this together, integrating into various systems, the base layer, which is the foundation of that, is going to be cloud technology for sure. But the other business services that come from these cloud technology, whether it is data security, whether it is server optimization, whether it is AI services, we have our voice to text engine today, which is using various components of whether it is one service provider or the other service provider. Because Sukumar is here, I'm not going to start taking other names of other companies, but the fact is that there are multiple technology companies which help today are jumping into healthcare providers such as ourselves to say, look, here we have all the various pieces of our business services, see how best you can optimize to deliver that to various care providers. So I think that sort of is a given for us, and I'm really glad that we are having these discussions today, because it is setting the stage for where technology is going to be a very big backbone for expanding India's healthcare delivery.
Absolutely, and that has been the aim of creating this knowledge sharing platform, so that we can discuss at length that what are the problems, how can those problems be overcome using technology and digital infrastructure. Thank you so much, Shayatto. I'll come back to you. Nidhi Jain, what's your thought on this?
Yeah. Hi. I will build basically what Shweta was telling us, that infra and technology is very important for the health tech startups. As being part of Care Expert also want to digitalize every hospital, let's say of India, being it rural place, being it at urban place, and this is only possible if we do it on a cloud technology, right? Otherwise, it is not even possible. And the data which we are talking about, we cannot manage it at a at a server level or at any level. So we need to have that infrastructure cloud ready, mobile ready, data ready, AI ready. All these technologies has to be part of the healthcare ecosystem. Only then we can say that okay, healthcare has leapfrog from whatever we have been doing for last 20 years. And what we have seen in past years, we have been reinventing the wheel in every hospital. Like Shweta was telling us that we are reinventing, we restitching every layer. We, best of the breed software we take, we integrate inside the hospital. But then we are reinventing, we are not moving forward. But if we want to move forward in the healthcare industry, we have to take it as a platform approach, pre-integrated approach, pre-built approach, and deploy it and scale it at any level, and build an ecosystem around it. For example, not reinventing what other eco partners are doing. If AI algorithm is already available, make it part of the ecosystem so that it is available to the rural nursing home also and to the urban nursing home also. So that is what we are trying to build, an ecosystem as part of the Care Expert, and including what we are providing to the hospital also, and we are practicing inside also. So everything, for example, when pandemic comes, our IT infra all was in the cloud, including our CI/CD pipeline that was on cloud. So for us, shifting to the working from home was not even a challenge. We actually working like 100+ employees today working from home without any disturbance, and even the productivity has gone high, just because we are working from home and there is no time limit on now what we are delivering. So these technology we have to adopt. If we don't adopt, we will extinct, I would say that. For example, VCD player to the Netflix, if I keep sticking to the iPod, or I keep sticking to the CD player, I will extinct one day. So I have to generate the content for Netflix if I want to survive. So it's for me, adopting technology is a survival factor also, and we have to keep adopting new technologies whatever coming, and have a value addition to the society. So that's it from my side.
Adapt or perish. That has been a message from Nidhi. Nikhil Kikade, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thanks, everyone. So I think adding to what is being already discussed, right? I think one of the few of the points which were discussed was the system, the healthcare infra should be scalable, it should be secure, right? It should be available as well. Medica Bazaar is we have a mission to uplift the entire digital B2B healthcare ecosystem, right? Both upstream and downstream. And when you are trying to do that, you cannot simply targeting, let's say, a metro cities or a tier one cities. So tier two, tier three itself is a pretty big area where you can improve upon, right? And to make it available, of course, we are pretty much looking forward to this 5G launch. I think we are hoping that okay, more and more penetration will happen, and uh, people will get on to because with the better infrastructure, I think people will be able to do much better. And about cloud, yes, I think cloud is no longer a exploratory technology anymore. It is something which is like a future. So either it would be cloud only or it is something like a cloud first, right? And to just give you an idea, let's say if we are trying to deal with a lot of manufacturers, big manufacturers, small manufacturers, even distributors, right? This can be there at any part of the country. For them to be included, feel included in the overall ecosystem, cloud is the only way, right? So, and this is something which we are pretty much committed to. And of course, you can add a lot of layers on top of it, that AI layer, data layer, making sure there is a real-time data flow which is happening somewhere, right? Which is it is not like for everyone, only for a single person, single company to consume, right? As an ecosystem, I think everyone has to contribute wherever they can, and we are pretty much sure that we will get there pretty soon. Healthcare, of course, us as an organization, we were always digitally driven, and everything which we did was digital. But I think over a period of time, I think all the stakeholders in this ecosystem will get involved and adopt all these new technologies which are coming in and make things better for everyone in the ecosystem. Yeah. Thanks.
Right. I'll come back to it. And actually, my second part of this discussion was based on cloud, but most of us have already touched on cloud. But still, I'll find some angle to ask you that question. But let's have a perspective from Rahul Chatterjee. Rahul, your thoughts on this need of the hour, resilient IT infrastructure for healthcare startups? Because if you want to upscale and survive and succeed in the new world order, that is one of the important things.
Yeah, thanks, Shobik. So, Shobik, I'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about iCure. So, we are a primary healthcare company that focuses on population health management. We are a technology based company, but we don't have pure tech offerings. Technology is an enabler for us, and we run clinics. We have doctors, nurses, community health workers. We engage in the community. Now, with this background, for us, the journey in the last 1.5 years, Shobik and team has been one of accelerating technology developments. For us, technology means three things for us. One, technology which we use to change business processes to cope with the new normal. Second, with technology, what are the new products and services that we can bring to the market? And the third is, how do we have technology to enable our own internal operations and help our members work? Just as Nidhi mentioned, being a tech company in many ways, at least the tech portion of the business, we were practically unaffected by COVID or working from home because our development environment was on the cloud. We work with collaborative tools. We use electronic document signatures, HelloSign, DocuSign. We work with Trello boards, Bittrex 24 CRM. So this was not a challenge for us. So going ahead, I don't think that the challenge for iCure is going to be how do you have a resilient tech infrastructure for internal operations. To us, the bigger challenge was how do you use technology to redesign business processes? And I'll just give you one example. Uh, because of the pandemic, we decided to decentralize care more than what it was. So we used apps. We started using technology and apps to do a nurse led healthcare model with a remote doctor on teleconsultation. So that was a business process change. And the second thing was because the customer is averse to visiting our clinics because of COVID. How can I use technology to redesign my earlier service offering? And we use technology to come up with, let's say, remote patient monitoring. A patient is on home isolation under COVID. So, Shobik, just to summarize, for me, redesigning business processes using technology, and second, coming up with new technology based offerings, that has been the challenge in the last 1.5 year. Not so much the internal cloud infrastructure or smart ERP systems. So we'll discuss it later, Shobik. That's all from my side.
Interesting take by Mr. Rahul, and we'll come back to that as well. But let me go back to Mr. Sugumar first. When Deepak Sharma was talking, he talked about data, sensitive data, and securing that data. Uh, Considering health data is very sensitive and it's also very vulnerable to attacks. What security measures should one consider? Sugumar, your thoughts on that?
Well, many actually do not realize, or at least many of the citizens of the country, I would say, do not recognize the criticality of this data. At least we people who are engaged with data and healthcare data and such know some of the critical aspects of it. But today, if you look at it, is much more valuable than even a credit card information of a particular individual. The health data is something which is being targeted for many activities, right? So it could become a lifetime, I would say, business for somebody just having those information. So building security measures right from the bottoms up, every aspect of the solution that we are working on to have data security built inside is very critical, because the moment we are digital, the amount of copies of data that we make, the places where we leave traces of it, and the availability of this data in the wrong hands can mean a lot of impact to not only just the citizen but also to the healthcare provider as well. So it is important to look at the security holistically, have layers of security from an intrinsic approach. So just not from the connectivity or from an access point of view, but also look at the security layers within the application itself, encrypting the entire data that you store in, and governance model to have in place to ensure that you know where exactly how many copies of data have you made, which is typically something that many of us do not consider when we take data or move data around, right? So that is something which I would say is very critical. In India today, we do not have something like a GDPR or any of those governance frameworks. It is coming up. It is going to take some time, but we already have we are already working with the ministry to ensure there are some guidelines in place for ensuring the data security, because going digital comes with its own advantages and some of the challenges that we will face. And this is one of the key aspects which we generally, simple example I can give you is the sensor data, maybe a smart watches that we wear or any of those activities that we send across without being anonymized can be very critical information, sensitive information that we are leaking to the public world. And when it comes to security, say the data security ownership lies with the organization which manages the data for the customer, right? So if, for example, we have the entire startups here, so they all know that the data that is being created by, for example, I have my data provided to, and this particular organization is going to store it on a cloud or anywhere. How securely is it being tracked in terms of who is using for what, and who controls the access for what? Because once it is typically this is what happens, right? Once you give it to a hospital, you don't know what happens within that, right? When it comes to technology based solutions, security aspects of it has to be really transparent to the end user or the patient, while where the data is going and who's having access to what data. So it is important to build multiple layers of security and ensure a governance framework is in place to have the data tracked where it is going.
Right,
That's my view.
right. That's an interesting take. I'll go to other speakers, but before that, quickly, if I just ask Suguma that, can you give some of the instances, maybe a couple of instances, how Dell is actually helping startups to grow, especially the healthcare startups?
Oh, certainly. So as you all know, Dell has been the infrastructure leader in the data center space. So we have been making progress, driving human progress. That's our vision, right? So from a the way we have been looking at how to expand, so we first look at democratizing technology. So making available of this technology and making it barrier for companies to adopt it, because technologies like AI, for example, are typically considered to be very high end and only rich or very big companies could afford. Right? That's an example. But what Dell does is to ensure it is accessible to everybody. Technology should never be a barrier for adopting new technologies. So what we do, we make it available for them. Ready solutions, for example, is one example that we can talk about, where many decision points make it complex for companies to adopt new technology. With ready solutions, we have those multiple decision-making points, which sort of makes it complex, right? So we make it ready. So value to the business is very, very quick. So you're able to go to the market very, very fast. There were a few points that were touched upon, like, for example, reinventing the wheel. You don't want to do that. There are technologies available. We want to make it available that everybody who can adopt it can take it. Second, from an cost perspective as well. So when you look at most of these technologies are prohibitively expensive when it comes to initial stages. So what we also have done is, from an capex standpoint, it is very difficult for many of these startups. So what we look at is delivering them as an OPEX model, as an like similar to a monthly consumption-based pricing is what we have started delivering many of these capabilities. So what this helps is ability to have all of these technologies in your hand at a affordable and in an incremental way, rather than having to take a very large bite which you can't chew. And one common theme which I was hearing across all of them talk about is cloud and cloud-based delivery. So cloud is something which is typically a misunderstood concept. From an cloud perspective, cloud is not a destination. What we believe is cloud is an operating model. Ability to have something consumed as a service wherever it is. It is not a destination. It's not a location. It is more of an operating model. So what we have been offering as cloud has been a cloud solution on premises or on a co-located facility where you have entire control of what you're doing with your data, etc. Right? In a typical public cloud, while it is simpler, while it is easier, it is not always as secure. Right? So when you want to build those layers of security, cloud technologies which help you protect and have control on the data definitely helps. We have been offering that as well as a service and as an operational expense instead of a capital expense. That should help startups look at technology adoption in a much faster pace.
True. It's a very important statement made by you that cloud is not a destination, it's an operating model. So I think healthcare startup leaders who are present here and who are also part of audience, they might be interested to get this kind of perspective, because it's not all about knowing cloud, but using cloud in an optimal way, in an effective way. Because my next question to Mr. Weber will be that most of us have been using cloud for many years now, but in the new world order, shift has been more towards using comprehensive cloud-based business model for startups. Where do you see the journey going?
So I would believe that I think different speakers touched upon that. So the scalability becomes very important. So if you look at from a tech-driven healthcare perspective or industry perspective or growth perspective in India, if you see, so India, if you look at it just from a healthcare delivery perspective, India's GDP to healthcare spend to GDP is probably a percent or so compared to much larger numbers elsewhere. Also, with this pandemic coming, we are seeing the need for healthcare delivery to reach every nook and corner of the country. And many of us on this panel and many of the people who are probably watching this also or listening to this also are working on how we can reach out to every possible citizen in this country. And of course, the only way you can do that in a fast time is basically leveraging technology and getting in every rural area, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns, apart from, of course, big cities where healthcare infrastructure is good. So the role of technology in healthcare in India is probably going to grow multifold in next few years. And you look at government's policy also, that digital health mission and things like that are basically all the attempts and the efforts in that area only. So I would believe that the need for a robust technology infrastructure, and that is cloud, and of course security becomes very important, and all of us touched upon that. A secure technology infrastructure, of course cloud based, because you know that this pandemics will keep coming or going. Or even if today we are all very because COVID is right in front of us. We have been talking about it for the last couple of years. But you look at any of the illnesses like a TB, or look at malaria, and look at a lot of other things also, which are all basically have been very big problems in India in remote areas. So how do you make sure you're testing all those people? How do you make sure when you're testing them, their results are basically getting, you're probably doing it using a point of care device or a connected device, and all the data is coming back centrally, and what do you do to do analytics on that? So some of those things also are going to be a lot more critical. So I would say the focus on healthcare has changed. That's what pandemic has done actually, that basically made sure that our focus on healthcare is a lot more razor sharp now, both from a healthcare perspective as well as wellness perspective. I'll give you another example of chronic diseases. So in this pandemic, we saw that anybody who had a chronic disease underlying condition, what you call comorbidity, which is basically diabetes, hypertension, or any of the lung problems, if they catch COVID, they are a lot more prone to suffer a lot more severely, right? And the death rates also are higher in that segment. So how do you make sure that people going forward who are having any of these comorbidities, they are working on taking care of that? And whatever they do, how do you monitor them regularly? So I would say that from a technology infrastructure perspective, taking each of these needs into play, building the infrastructure which can, of course, scale up, scale down the resilience thing which you talked about, and security becomes exceptionally critical. And I would believe that the business will be from a healthcare perspective. I think the more it's on cloud, better it is, because it can be accessed from anywhere. Of course, it's very user friendly and so on and so forth. And what we are seeing now in one of our cases also, we also are getting some of our policies and security systems and everything gets audited by some of the international insurance players we have been working with. And the cloud infrastructure which we have been using has basically stood the test of that audit and scrutiny. So I would believe that the core infrastructure from a cloud perspective has become more and more robust. The whole point is to take it to scale it basis the need which is going to grow multifold in India. And I think that's what we need to work on. I think somebody also talked about how we can make it for horses for courses. Actually, that's something which becomes very important. I think that different kind of segments of illnesses and chronic diseases will have to be worked upon. So how do we take care of that becomes very important.
True. Deepak, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think at the risk of repeating what others have said, I think given that you're a startup in this day and age, and really for the last 5-6 years, the fact that you are thinking about technology first and being on the cloud and resilient, etc., is a given, right? Not any of us, whether in the pure technology as enabler or technology as infrastructure, could have dreamt about doing this without the resilient, secure, scalable infrastructure. It's really lowers the barrier to entry. So the case for cloud or a resilient, scalable IT infrastructure, secure on the supply side of healthcare startups is a given. But the interesting thing is on the demand side, obviously there is, somebody said there's hinterland areas where the reach is difficult unless you are scalable. If there are segments which are more B2C, the only way to reach people is on the mobile, right? So, you need to have an infrastructure that drive that. But the interesting thing that we are finding is that as we go as the learning platform into any hospitals, even the large ones or the big, we are probably the first cloud-based system that they're using. Sometimes it's dramatic to see, right? Small hospitals, it's a given. Sometimes we are the first technology platform they're using. It's so easy for them to use because switch on and go, right? You really just need to log in and get your employees on their devices. But even some of the larger mid-sized hospitals, we are really among the first footprint they have on the cloud. And I can imagine how things might be a few years later, right? On all of these dimensions, all of these segments, as I think Weber was saying, but he was talking about different segments, whether there's large hospitals, B2C, small hospitals, colleges. I think the adoption, we are really, as started, we are the first, gateway when they're experiencing cloud as used. They probably have been using it as consumers, and therefore the responsibility to obviously make sure that the solution's affordable, right? The solution's scalable. You can pay, you can do your different business models, pay per use, etc., etc., and the solution is secure. It rests with us when we take our solution to a large hospital, small hospital, or any place, right? So I think that's been my perspective, that on the tech side of it, it's a given, right? For the last so many years, if you want to do anything, like, you have to be on the cloud, you have to develop on the cloud, you have to release on the cloud, you have to test on the cloud, you have to secure the cloud. But our customer segments, each of them, from the small to big, they need us to champion the cloud, and they need us to champion the right principles of the cloud, operating system, as Sukumar was saying.
Actually, my next round of question was on customer satisfaction using digital infrastructure. So Deepak is always going ahead of me. First, he talked about data, now about
I'm sorry, I got the cheat sheet from somewhere.
no, it's fine. It actually is helping me a lot. Shahid, your thoughts on that?
On the cloud or on the customer one?
A customer on the next set. Let's have a perspective on cloud.
So I think,
look, new era of using cloud-based business model. Let me put it like that.
Yeah. So I think, look, there is a given. So we can. I think I'm not going to keep pressing that further. That I think anyone who's using, or any businesses that are being created on new age technology, you've got to be a dinosaur not to do it on cloud, right? So first of all, unless you've got a lot of money which you want to burn and set up your own server farm, cloud is the only way out. But I think the most important thing, ourselves, and I think Nidhi is probably the other one, which is where we work from within hospitals. And I think also, like Deepak mentioned, you have to get a little bit of an understanding of the landscape, right? So when you talk about cloud, if the hospitals are not ready for it, then you've got to have, you're disconnected immediately. Second thing is, I think it's more the education of it. Something that Sukumar talked about, which is that hospitals and healthcare providers have to feel that sense of security, because to their mindsets, it's quite ironical, but to their mindsets, a large part of them, I'm not saying everyone, a large part of them is that if I go to cloud, I lose my data, right? Which is not the case. In fact, we've probably gone like time and again and trying to explain to providers and to everyone is to say, look, the amount you're going to spend on data security and the amount any of these cloud providers spend on data security, you'll never be able to do it in the next 100 years. So there is no question about it. But I think it's the education and the comfort of it that they have to get. The second thing is, I think, yes, we are a little too early for GDPR. And I think GDPR is a very good system for healthcare, because it has consents which is built into it, both from a patient as well as from a doctor perspective. But there is a cost attached to it. And I don't think the healthcare, especially after the COVID situation, where it's really gone through it's been good on the digitization side and the digitalization side of it. But I think you have to also appreciate that they've gone through a huge beating in terms of the financial pressure that they've they're trying to come out of. So I don't think for the next few years, you're going to see expenditure in areas where, or them being able to spend areas where, it is not really converting into a transaction. I think that's where we are today focused on, is that how do I bring, cloud is one, but I think the most important is how do I bring effective solutions? Something that Weber was talking about, what we've done is, we realized it during the second wave, that there were not enough nurses to be able to send home, and you could not send them home, right? So what we did was we used the power of, I will say, technology. Cloud is being a given. I used the power of technology where we used devices, whether it was BP monitors or ECG devices, etc. They are integrated into the app, and through that, the patient who's under isolation without any nurse or anybody coming home can actually send that data straight through to a doctor or a care provider wherever they are. Now, just take this and start simplifying this a little further and expand this to the geography that you can go. So let's go to tier two cities of India. You're going to solve a problem for not just a 10 million, you're solving 100 million problem, So I think it's going to be a combination of how does the ecosystem really start taking the benefit of it. Startups are one side of it. They will always be the one because for them it's cheaper, effective. But how the rest of the ecosystem also responds to it, how everybody gets comfortable with it. I think today, patients, if you look at it again, pre-COVID, doctors were very uncomfortable with EMRs. Patients, the mobile apps, it's quite ironical, right? You buy everything on your mobile. You do all your financial transactions on your mobile. You transfer money on your mobile. You do everything. When it comes to healthcare, you probably, if somebody pushes you, you'll book a doctor's appointment on a mobile, and that's the end of it, right? At least that shift has happened, that today, whether it is home care, whether it is a consult, whether it is diagnostics, whether it is EMR, so both the patients, the hospitals and the doctors, I think all of them have adopted to technology, not in a small step, but in a very big way. We've seen a 90% adoption in EMR, which I can tell you it would have taken us probably 5 years to get to that place. And we've done it in less than 12 months. So I think that combined, I think there's another very important factor we have to keep in mind, that mobile internet penetration and mobile and fiber internet penetration is a huge enabler for the cloud comfort. Because at the end of the day, without that, the cloud story fails. So that internet backbone has become far more robust than it was a few years ago. And it gets stronger and stronger. I mean, whether it is today, you've got fiber to home, right? Which means that the commercial piece is so robust that you are able to deliver fiber to home. And with the speeds that you're getting, now, yes, it becomes easier. Like Nidhi said, to be able to have 100 people working from home, you're able to do that because of the fact that you have internet available. So that is, again, a very driving factor, I would say, to the cloud story.
True. What Shayata has said for last 5 minutes, it reminds me of that famous saying that sometimes it takes decades to change things, sometimes it takes weeks to change things. And as you have said, the patient, doctors and hospitals and the healthcare ecosystem has quite fast have adopted technology in the last 1.5 years, as you have said, which must not have been done maybe in 5 years or 10 years. That is the power of technology, and that is how it actually is beneficial for everybody. And that's where the health tech startups should embrace technology more and more to reach out to customers in much more effective way. And that's why the digital healthcare infrastructure is also necessary. That's my point of view. Let's take a point of view of Nidhi Jain. Nidhi, your thoughts on that?
Sorry,
Yeah,
sorry, ma'am.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you there. I unfortunately have another engagement for me to log off. So it's very good discussions we are having. I think really productive. I think in terms of the topics that we are discussing, these are very constructive, and I believe in order to have these technologies used for delivering better human progress, I think it is simply superb to have. I really thank you all for your time. I just want to apologize and log off from here. Please continue your discussion. Sorry about this.
Thank you so much, Sukumar Umapati, Enterprise Architect and Chief Technology Officer, Dell Technologies, for joining us. We move on to Nidhi. Nidhi, your thoughts on that? What we were discussing?
Yeah. So first, I want to follow Deepak wherever he has sold cloud. I want to go there and sell my stuff over there, because I think that's very true. Selling cloud to customer is a challenge, but we have done successfully now after pandemic. People have legacy systems are not working for them in the hospital itself, right? So they are now looking for the change. So that is a big transformation which has happened. They are looking for change, and it is not small hospital or a medium hospital. Even the big hospitals are also looking for the change, and going to cloud is not a problem for them anymore now. For them, they see the benefits of moving to the cloud, and we have converted few large customers also going to the cloud. So cloud is not a issue, and I think education, yes, if these people, Google of the world, Microsoft of the world, can educate the industry that cloud is the better way to go, then it will help us as a startup. And it is a opex model, it is not a capex model where infra get obsolete. So in this case there is no obsolescence, right? Including from the feature perspective, including from infra perspective. So there is no obsolescence to things. You always upgrade your system, you always upgrade your infra. So you are always using the cutting edge feature set and the ecosystem. And the security part, I would say security on a cloud is very, very important. And as Indian company, we all have to be, fold our sleeves. We are working with PwC to clear the cloud certification. So we have done that, and we are going for HITRUST also to make our cloud actually secure. So that is our priority from a cloud security also, so that no data get leakage. It's data at rest is also secure. So that's it from my side.
Right, right. I can see Deepak smile. I'll come back to Deepak also, but let's have a perspective from Rahul Chatterjee. Rahul, your thoughts on that? I think Nikhil was here. Has Nikhil left? Maybe, or some technical glitch. So let's have a perspective from Rahul.
So Shavik, within iCure, most of our energies, most of our focus is actually on the customer business model, the payment models. Would it be pay for use or as a project, on the experience? Discussion on the core technology or on the cloud, I would say, is restricted to a very few people. It's not a very core thing. The approach we have taken is we need a strong technology backbone, but technology is not an issue, because the issue is all about designing the right product and being able to sell the right product. And the chances are we'll be able to figure out the technology. But having said that, our production and development environment is all on cloud. We have been on AWS. So we keep on, shuffling between AWS and Azure. And now I believe that the tech team is thinking of getting into DigitalOcean. Interestingly, our B2C offerings are all on with a mobile app. And multiple speakers have spoken about it. The large government project, Shobhik, that we do is we offer telehealth services in the state of Nagaland to all 194 health and wellness centers. So we have given the technology infrastructure. Although the government first said that we would need to host the application in their servers, interestingly, the project is about a year old now, and it continues to be hosted on Microsoft Azure. So I was earlier with Siemens and then with Atos, and during that time, whenever I bid for government RFPs, there was a huge resistance to being on the cloud. But here is, we are a tiny startup, and this is an USAID funded project, Shobhik, Nagaland, but the entire solution is hosted on cloud. It's on Microsoft Azure. So I believe the acceptance is far higher. And Shobhik, before I just stop here, Shayatto mentioned about the acceleration in the adoption of digital technologies. I remember having read a McKinsey Global Survey 2020, which said the adoption of technologies to internal business operations would have been, accelerated about 3 years, 3 to 4 years. And the acceleration in the adoption of technologies for coming up with new products for customers may be as high as 7 years. So COVID has really been a tailwind. I mean, as early as March 25, 2020, the government of India, which had been dilly-dallying with their stand on teleconsultation, came up with that. And Shobik, as a company, we are just going to follow the NDHM stack and whatever the National Digital Health Mission does, because we see a lot of scaling up with the government. So I think our approach would be to use their APIs, use their dashboards and masters, and just comply with whatever is mandated by NDHM.
Right, right. I think Nikhil is back with us. Nikhil, quickly.
Hey, I'm really sorry. My screen just froze. I had to open up some another laptop.
No,
My
no, no,
mission is-
no issues, sir. These are part and parcel of using technology, so we are all aware of that. So, Nikhil, quickly,
He's not using cloud technology, obviously.
So Nikhil, can we have perspective from you on what we're discussing? I've got perspective from others as well. Then I'll move to my next round of question to all of you. Nikhil, how do you define that? What is the importance of using new ways of cloud-based model? Because as Shayata was saying, or Deepak was saying, or whoever was saying, that cloud have to be used. So there's no second option on that, and especially for startups. But do you see that any new era or new dimension of cloud-based business model for health tech startups?
Not new as such. See, there are a lot of things which have already happened, right? And not just in health tech, they're everywhere. Like you can build a great product.
I'm asking you this because a lot of things which have happened maybe took 4 years, 5 years, 6 years time. But what we have seen in the last 1.5 years, things have changed drastically and dramatically, and maybe things will be changing as fast as this in the coming months also. So, from that perspective, I'm coming to you.
Yeah. So I think I think we are talking primarily from an adoption perspective, that how quickly the cloud can get adopted. I think I'm pretty much sure that the time it would have taken without COVID to make that happen, I think that is definitely shortened. So I think a lot of people, especially if you have to categorize adoption into two buckets, right? One is for the large, well set up organizations, right? Something like a large hospital or a large manufacturer, or something like small players, small hospitals, small clinics, small manufacturers and distributors. I think as long as you are able to address the security issues, the availability issues, making an amazing product, adding actual value, right? Like improving their bottom line, top line. But something like a small organization values more is, okay, how do we grow using this platform, right? Because they are aspirational in nature. Something like a small hospital would like to become a bigger hospital, right? How do they do that? They increase revenue, they save their costs, try and do things in a more digital manner, create a use case for their own patients and maybe own set of customers. Okay, we are a data-driven organization which can act as a catalyst for them to come back and use their services, right? So I think the time period has definitely shortened, and I'm pretty much sure that we'll get there soon enough. I think it would have taken a pretty long time, but I think everyone has realized that there are no other ways. It's only at the brink where people find a will to change. So I think this is something I feel it will get accelerated pretty much. And we have already seen that happening, right? Like we are a cloud company, and let's say we have a great patented procurement technology which can forecast the demand for any kind of a hospital, right? So if I have to do that, of course, we'll have to process millions of data and then give a correct output. And that can only happen on a cloud. I cannot actually imagine doing this in a on-prem solution. And if someone has to use that solution, they will have to again get connected to the cloud, right? So it's all about adding value. As long as you are adding value and the customers are able to appreciate that value, I think they will come in. So it's all about building great product. And of course, the other aspects, I'm pretty much sure there are great minds around the world who are working on how to make cloud more secure. And I think that will happen. And I think we'll all leverage that fact that, okay, that is also happening and it's been taken care of. I think the responsibility from everyone in the ecosystem is to keep building on great products which will keep on adding values to different customer segments.
Right. Very interesting point raised by Nikhil. Actually, that again helped me to go to my next question. He talked about that making customers happy, and also we have to adopt technology accordingly so that customer satisfaction, customer experience is enhanced, right? So Let me go back to Vaibhav Tiwari. Mr. Vaibhav, so how when we say that we want to digitize business processes to transform customer experience, uh, how do you define it in New World Order?
I think the one thing which is very important in healthcare, what we are seeing now is basically probably the newfound acceptance or probably eagerness to leverage IoT. I think one is that the health tech devices are becoming very, very important now, and we are seeing lots of those. We are seeing connected devices. We are seeing like two lead ECGs, one lead ECG. We are seeing the portable X-rays. We are seeing, of course, connected primary care devices. So I would say that the IoT is probably the big driving factor as far as the customer connectedness is concerned for managing and monitoring their health. I think that's where it's very important, where we are seeing use of technology which can aid to customer satisfaction. Second thing, of course, them being able to access the best of healthcare using basically technology. What we all of us talked about, teleconsultation. We look at COVID. 90% of the patients can just get cured at home under home isolation programs, and Portia, as well as I think some of the other players also on this forum, have run large home isolation programs where we have supported patients without necessarily leaving their homes. So if you look at a situation like COVID, just getting out of the home is not good for you, is not good for anybody else in your family or a neighborhood. So those kind of things, technology has basically made it possible for you to consult the best doctor anywhere in the country or in the world as you require. So those kind of things are giving power back in hands of the patients, because before that I have to basically go to the hospital or go to a clinic, register, wait, and so on and so forth. Today I fix up my appointment leveraging technology, and of course are able to consult doctors, get prescription, get medicine e-delivered, and those kind of things. So I think the whole experience, the power of healthcare, of managing my own healthcare, in many ways the balance is shifted also in favor of patients with use of technology, and we see that growing a lot in coming days and years also.
Thanks, Vaibhav. Deepak, your take on that?
Yeah, so a couple of things, right? So we talk about digitalization and the impact on customer experience. Let me give you very specific knowledge. Two examples at extreme ends, right? Well, one secret is that we are a startup, but we are incubated at what used to be another startup 20 years ago, Impelsys, right? Impelsys was a pioneer in ebook technologies, and we worked with some of the leading medical publishers in the US, Europe. About 7-8 years ago, we started working with the American Heart Association. Now, the training that they deliver is resuscitation training to more than 2 million people, right? Which means when somebody is having a heart attack, right? Your ability to delete the right amount of compressions, the right amount of things can save millions of lives, right? So every year in the US, there are so many heart attacks, hundreds of thousands, right, over the course of a year. So AHA is really the leading authority, only authority which does research into CPR techniques. 7 years ago, when we started, there used to be books, and then you have to read a book, pass an exam, go to a center in the US, get your training under an instructor for 2 days, yeah, and get your certificate out, right? When we started with the HA, we first converted them to ebooks, so you didn't have to really use a physical book as a starting point there. To now, HA now delivers instructorless training, and I'll give you an IoT example that you talked about, Vaibhav. The entire training is you look at your e-learning module online, and you go and book a place on a mannequin, which is an IoT enabled mannequin. You give it the right amount of compressions, and you get it right in 20 minutes. You're done. Every quarter you go in, and you are better trained. Instead of doing to a classroom once in 2 years, right? You're better trained, you have better chances of survival, you have better chances of saving people's lives if somebody's having a heart attack. And that has changed the entire game plan. And that's a platform, well, in India, we're a startup, but that's a platform Impelsys built and rolled out. It's on thousands of hospitals in India. So we work with Laerdal, AHA, and that's a platform is now literally empowering so many lifesavers in the US to literally, from what you imagine the process was. This is true digitization, right? And now we plan to bring that here to India. Right now, there's not that much regulatory pressure to do CPR the right way, but we think this is what healthcare sector needs at the lowest level. The other example, which is the simplest example that we had, is we had patient. We started we started incubating this about 2 years back. Last year in January we launched. We had no idea what was coming, right? And we had all sorts of issues and challenges initially getting into the concept, training, quality, etc. And then, recently, whenever there's been a challenge with even getting trainings done online, on in person, sorry, that's the way, the traditional way they used to train, right? Hospitals are a complete loss on how to keep the training going, because without training, you are running a big risk, whether it's fires, infection, etc., etc. We pioneered the concept of virtual classrooms, which are connected to maybe a Zoom account and to digital devices. Hospitals can now train their nurses on whatever needs to be trained, from infection control to safety to fire management. Obviously, for some skills, you still need to go and do hands-on training. But that's the dramatic sea change digitalization has brought into patient experience. The percentage training completion has gone up. Their ability to meet their compliance with the NABH quality accreditation process has gone up. Their overall ability to save lives has gone up. So I think without the digital technologies and tools that we've been pioneering in the system for the last so many years globally, this would have been unthinkable, right? We would have still been thinking about the traditional models.
Right. Shayat, your thoughts on that?
See, I'll tell you, I think the point that Weber made is very important, which is that the digital technology today is going to start empowering patients with managing their healthcare needs. I think that is the big shift that has happened. There's been an intensive amount of self-learning that they've gone through. Some of the things that will play a very big role is how do we make this a lot easier and a lot simpler. These would include use of technology extensions such as AI. How do I look at the patient's longitudinal data and be able to throw out in good findings, productive findings that a patient can use to say, okay, fine, looking at my blood sugar readings and the trends that it's going, I think it's probably time for me to go see a doctor. And things like that. If it is, again, coming to talk about preventive health is typically in most people's mindsets been, I have to go to a hospital or a wellness center and get a preventive health check done. No, but preventive health comes from your wearables also today. And if you start analyzing that data and putting it into a meaningful sort of an analytical tool, you're able to guide a patient through, whether it is, your heart rates, whether it is your ECG. I think those sort of things will start empowering patients a lot more using digital technology, and as a result of which you're able to manage the entire life cycle of cure. I think today, when we talked about it right at the beginning, and I said, the whole healthcare process is fractured, is because there are different buckets of information. And frankly speaking, as a patient, if I ever go see a doctor in a hospital, the burden of actually managing my cure after that is pretty much on me as a patient, right? I have to go to the next counter, figure it out, and so on and so forth. That is again unheard of because in any other sector, the moment you have a patient, any customer who walks through your doors, you would want to make sure that the person walks out of those doors with all their bags filled up, right? So that's the same thing that we have to do with in sort of using the digital power of digital technology. How do I manage the entire life cycle of cure for a patient? So right from the time that a patient has diagnosed with a particular illness till they have finished their cure, and maybe thereafter manage the wellness from there on. So there is a very long tail advantage that you have, that you can use digital technology in healthcare to build patient experience, which will ultimately give you more revenue. At the end of the day, that is always on the minds of anybody, whether it is a startup or a healthcare provider, is ultimately what's going to give me more revenue. And I think it's going to give you revenue and efficiency. Both those things will drive from better patient experience and digital technology.
Thank you so much, Shayat Rahat. We're running short of time, so I'll quickly take a perspective from Nidhi Jain, Rahul Chatterjee, and Nikhil. Maybe 30 to 40 seconds to each of you. Nidhi.
Okay.
Let's start with you.
Yeah. So I will just build on Shayata was he was telling he touched upon the patient side of it. So I will say in hospital, like for example, hospital is our customer, so they have almost 60 plus roles, right? Nurses working for them, pharmacist is working for them. So for us, all of these are customers, and how to train them, it's not possible if we were on a remotely. Now we are training them remotely, as it is like we are working in front of them. So that adoption of technology helped us from that perspective also. And for them, and upgrades are also happening every week. So the new features delivery, it's possible only because we are adopting the new technologies. So that's from my side, and adoption from the all stakeholder perspective, not from the just from patient or a doctor perspective.
True. Rahul, quickly.
Yeah, very quickly. So technology would make a huge difference to customer satisfaction, patient satisfaction. It could be very basic technology. So we set up a teleconsultation unit in a subcenter in Khunti. The patient had to walk all the way to the district hospital or travel to district hospital, which was 11 kilometers away. Whole days income lost. Now they can come to a subcenter, walking distance from the home, get onto a teleconsultation unit supported by an A&M and talk to a doctor in the Sadar Hospital, Khunti. Very basic teleconsultation unit, huge difference to patient experience. And I'm not even talking of using AI ML for processing of image and doing a triage or diagnosis. Very simple access to doctor consultation at a subcenter. Yeah, Nikhil.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. So I think I'll just give a quick example. It's about the after sales service, and in fact, because we are trying to build something around it, and of course we have taken inspiration for something which is already happening in the industry. See, customer experience and technology. This is something which we are working for some time now, and this is of course after taking inspiration from multiple players. So if you have seen like a lot of these popular food delivery apps, right? Like after you place an order, if you want to cancel, modify everything, you don't have to talk to anyone, right? You just do it on the app. It's pretty much like a bot which is talking to you. And something like this, pandemic, no pandemic, this is something which was already happening, and there is a lot of inspiration which you can take, especially in the health tech. Something which is as good as even signing an agreement, right? Like there are a lot of e-signing tools available. If you're building something like a SaaS product, right? You sign up, you see the product, you get something like a e-signing tool there where you actually make an agreement there, you sign an agreement there, and then you move forward, right? So a lot of things which can happen, and of course there's a big scope. Technology can do a lot of wonders, of course. So at every problem, and I think healthcare business in general can take as much as inspiration as possible from other industries as well, how they are doing it, right? So.
Right. Thank you so much, Nikhil. That brings us to the end of this wonderful session on scaling up of healthcare startups with digital infrastructure. Let me thank Vaibhav Tihari, Deepak Sharma, Shayad Turaha, Nidhi Jain, Nikhil Khekare, Rahul Chatterjee, and Sugumar Mapati, who represented Dell Technologies. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today in this session on how healthcare IT infrastructure has become more significant than ever for health tech startups transforming healthcare landscape. Do take care and keep innovating. Thank you so much. With this,
Thank you.
next session, which will start at 3:15, that session will be focusing on fintech startups and their digital upgradation. Do join us for that session. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Shah.
Welcome to the future. You're gonna wanna get ready. You're gonna wanna get ready. You're gonna wanna get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Welcome to the future.
Guys, let's be honest. Working from home is not a piece of cake. Too many calls, too many meetings, and too many disturbances. Luckily, I have my Dell Mobile Adapter speakerphone for all your conferencing needs. It also reduces noise and echo. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, crystal clear.
Sir, when will you clear my payment?
Hello, there's some network problem.
Some things never change. Speaking of things that never change, I am so tired of sitting in the same place for hours and hours and hours. Which is why I use the Dell multi-device wireless keyboard and mouse. And now I can work from anywhere. Like anywhere. Here. Literally anywhere. With 36 months of battery life and multi-device connectivity. For a young working professional like me, it's a dream come true. Talking about dreams, you wanna know what's my worst nightmare?
Working weekends?
Yeah, kind of, but you're missing the point. This. Exactly this. Which is why I have the Dell Notebook Power Bank Plus. Because blackouts, power cuts, gadgets running out of juice should all be things of the past. And I learn from my past mistakes. I don't even know how many devices I've lost to clumsy water spillages. Lost, but never forgotten. Rest in peace, my friend. If only someone had made a snugly fit and stylish protective covering for you, we would have still been together. So basically, Dell has a cool new range of products that will make work from home a whole lot easier. So use them, power up, and take your game to the next level. So all in all, working from home is not a piece of cake. But it's not so bad also.
Patterns flickering on the flooring. Mellow yellow clouds in the morning. Turn another page, write your story. Chasing better days, not the glory. Don't flinch, don't blink, don't fear. Keep on, those skies will clear in the morning. Feel it every moment. East side to west side, I'm coming. Keep it together, play it right. This is how you come to.
Follow your heart, follow your heart, follow your heart. This is the start. This is the start. Follow your heart.
Welcome to the future. You're gonna wanna get ready. You're gonna wanna get ready. You're gonna wanna get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Welcome to the future. Welcome to the future. Welcome to the future. Here we are making history. Higher than we've ever been. You're gonna wanna get ready. Get ready, get ready. Welcome to the future.
Guys, let's be honest. Working from home is not a piece of cake. Too many calls, too many meetings, and too many disturbances. Luckily, I have my Dell Mobile Adapter speakerphone for all your conferencing needs. It also reduces noise and echo. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, crystal clear.
Sir, when will you clear my payment?
Hello, there's some network problem.
Some things never change. Speaking of things that never change, I am so tired of sitting in the same place for hours and hours and hours. Which is why I use the Dell multi-device wireless keyboard and mouse. And now I can work from anywhere. Like anywhere. Here. Literally anywhere. With 36 months of battery life and multi-device connectivity. For a young working professional like me, it's a dream come true. Talking about dreams, you wanna know what's my worst nightmare?
Working weekends?
Yeah, kind of, but you're missing the point. This. Exactly this. Which is why I have the Dell Notebook Power Bank Plus. Because blackouts, power cuts, gadgets running out of juice should all be things of the past. And I learn from my past mistakes. I don't even know how many devices I've lost to clumsy water spillages. Lost, but never forgotten. Rest in peace, my friend. If only someone had made a snugly fit and stylish protective covering for you, you would have still been together. So basically, Dell has a cool new range of products that will make work from home a whole lot easier. So use them, power up, and take your game to the next level. So all in all, working from home is not a piece of cake. But it's not so bad also.
Patterns flickering on the flooring. Mellow yellow clouds in the morning. Turn another page, write your story. Chasing better days, not the glory. Don't flinch, don't blink, don't fear. Keep on, those skies will clear in the morning. Feel it every moment. East side to west side, I'm coming. Keep it together, play it right. This is how you come to.
Follow your heart. Follow your heart, follow your heart. This is the start. This is the start. Follow your heart.
Welcome to the future. You're gonna wanna get ready. You're gonna wanna get ready. You're gonna wanna get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Welcome to the future.
Guys, let's be honest. Working from home is not a piece of cake. Too many calls, too many meetings, and too many disturbances. Luckily, I have my Dell Mobile Adapter speakerphone for all your conferencing needs. It also reduces noise and echo. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, crystal clear.
Sir, when will you clear my payment?
Hello, there's some network problem.
Some things never change. Speaking of things that never change, I am so tired of sitting in the same place for hours and hours and hours. Which is why I use the Dell multi-device wireless keyboard and mouse. And now I can work from anywhere. Like anywhere. Here. Literally anywhere. With 36 months of battery life and multi-device connectivity. For a young working professional like me, it's a dream come true. Talking about dreams, you wanna know what's my worst nightmare?
Working weekends?
Yeah, kind of, but you're missing the point. This. Exactly this. Which is why I have the Dell Notebook Power Bank Plus. Because blackouts, power cuts, gadgets running out of juice should all be things of the past. And I learn from my past mistakes. I don't even know how many devices I've lost to